What's up everyone, it's your girl Shay here and I'm back with another video for you guys. And as you can see, I'm back to my old setup. I finally got the piece for my tripod that allowed me to sit on my bed and record videos. And now I'm back able to do it and I am so happy. But anyway, as you can see by the title, I'm going to be talking about the new anime documentary released on Netflix called Enter the Anime. And let me just say, it wasn't that great. The Into the Anime documentary only is about 58 minutes long, and basically it's about a lady's trek into Japan for her to learn more about anime and, from what also I was able to tell, Japanese culture. Now, one of the main things I can say is that I didn't like about it is that they didn't really go very much into the history of anime itself and how it originated in Japan and like the reasons why it was generally created. It seemed like the lady was so obsessed with talking about anime as being something completely crazy and weird and so separate from Japanese culture, which she said is a little bit more uniformed and very traditional per se. She talked a lot about the clothes that some people wear in Japan. She talked about things like kawaii culture. She talked about like lolitas and stuff like that, but never really got to the gist of talking about anime. I have a few notes here also that I'm going to go over, so if I'm looking at my phone, this is exactly why. So one of the things I also wish that she would have talked about is that she would have talked about how much anime has meant for so many people, and she didn't talk about this aspect until the very end of the entire documentary, where she talked about it was something that so many people felt that they could basically kind of relate to, and that it was something that so many people could connect with, which was very, very true. But the one thing I didn't like when that entire monologue at the end was that she said it was something that was created by misfits for misfits. Now, I'll be honest, I myself don't consider myself someone who is a misfit, which, to be honest, I probably need a definition for that. But I don't consider myself that. I consider the fact that I like anime is because of the simple fact that I just like it. The animation is amazing, the storylines are a lot more in depth, and it's just something that I was just able to connect with the characters on a deeper level. Another thing that I wish that she would have delved more into is that it seems like she only ever showed images of anime that were pretty violent. Animes that were mostly like shonen or fighting animes that were very like grotesque or showed a lot of blood. She very rarely, or not at all actually, showed animes that were like of the shoujo variety, that were more in depth besides than just fighting animes in general. She never talked about shows like Sailor Moon, never talked about shows like Fruits Basket, Peach Girl, Nana, so many other animes out there that were so revolutionary and that were actually really, really amazing that she just kind of glossed over those. She mentioned briefly that there were animes that did talk about like global warming, the environment, that talked about the apocalypse and had much deeper topics, but she also, like I mentioned, glossed over them. She never actually went into a more like in-depth view of these topics within anime and how inspiring they can be and how it's not something really just for kids. And at one point she even goes into where she wants to go back to the childlike aspect of anime and the more childish parts of, or like the more childlike genre of within anime basically. And to me, that didn't make any sense, because the one thing that so many of us anime fans have had to explain or defend is that anime isn't just for kids, it's for adults as well. And she kind of touches on this and she talks about it when she went back to the whole like kid part of it. It was like, I'm so very, very confused. Another thing that I wished that I actually really didn't like about it is that she only talked about animes that are on Netflix. Now, I understand, as she mentioned in the beginning of her documentary, she was hired by Netflix to make this documentary. So, of course, Netflix is going to want her to basically promote shows that are streaming on Netflix. But a lot of the animes that she discussed, per se, for me, they weren't animes that I connected to. Like in the documentary, she goes to Toei Animation, where many of us know does Dragon Ball Z. And while Dragon Ball Z was actually mentioned, it wasn't actually talked about. They decided to talk about Saint Seiya instead. And to me, yes, Saint Seiya is a show that a lot of people know of, but Dragon Ball Z is like one of the big wig anime shows that people across the world know about. And I hate that this was a show they didn't talk about because it's not on Netflix. So that was, to me, one of the things that I felt like, even though Netflix like was producing or asked her to do this documentary, that I wish Netflix would have been okay with them expanding and talking about shows that may not necessarily be on Netflix, but was very revolutionary and inspiring within the anime community, not just in Japan, but among the entire world. And I just also kind of wish that she didn't just talk to people in Japan, that she should have also talked to people in the States as well. The States have so many people that are anime fans, and you also have so many actual movie producers that have been inspired by anime itself. And while she did talk about that anime has influenced a lot of like American productions and American movies and stuff like that, that was to me something that could have been delved into a lot deeper. Now, this isn't to say that there isn't any good aspects of this documentary, because it was, I'm not gonna lie, it was kind of a fun watch, but the entire time I was like, I just feel like this is all over the place. I feel like it is too engrossed in Japan itself and how different anime is than actually talking about anime in a way that someone who isn't an anime fan might be inspired or realize that anime is just a lot more than Pokemon, Digimon, or a lot more than just like grotesque or violent anime, that there is some depth to the shows that many of us love and enjoy. And that was one of the things that made me deeply disappointed in this entire documentary. Now, I myself have actually seen another anime documentary, but I watched it years ago. At this point, I think I was like 15 when I watched it, so that was over 10 years ago. And the documentary was called Anime Drawing a Revolution. Now, a lot of people, though, at sometimes did not enjoy that documentary. I myself did. It was the first documentary I think I ever watched talking about anime, and it went more in depth into how anime has shaped US culture and movies and stuff of that nature, and actually went more in depth as to the history of anime and manga, of how it was inspired by Disney, by Osamu Tezuka, who was considered the godfather of anime, and how it came out after World War II as to give hope to Japan after the bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And to me, that's where this documentary didn't touch me as much. It didn't inspire me. It didn't make me like really interested in what I was watching. It just made me feel like I was watching any old documentary. And this was where it fell flat. Now, I don't know how other people feel about it, but so far from what I've read on Twitter from those who have also watched this documentary, they weren't very happy with it either. I feel like one of the things that they could have done to like make this better was to have someone who was an anime fan along with her for the entire ride. They had her by herself as someone who is not an anime fan and doesn't know much about it to learn about it, which I get, and I am kind of like, okay, like that's a great way to kind of spin this documentary of having her learn more about a culture and also a subculture within that culture. But if she would have had someone along with her who knew a lot about anime itself, they might have been able to help her or been able to steer her in a direction of like, this is what anime fans and also people who don't know about anime will want to know and want to see and want to learn. Anime fans are want to be able to be like, hey, she knows her stuff. Like, she really went and talked to these like legit people that many of us wish that we could talk to. She talked about shows that are relatable to us, and she talked about basically how this entire subculture within this culture has shaped our own culture and our own media. But she didn't do that. And to me, if she would have had someone, like I said, along with her, they could have helped her to not only make anime fans happy, but those who aren't anime fans learn a lot about this particular, you know, not really production, but to learn about this particular media, to be able to be like, okay, now I get why my friends are into anime. I get why my son or my daughter is into anime. I see how it's shaped my culture. like I mentioned, when I watched Anime Drawing a Revolution, I didn't realize that shows like Speed Racer was actually anime. I didn't know Transformers started out as a toy and then became a show. Like, I didn't know any of these things until I watched that documentary, and it made me more and more interested in learning as much as I could about anime and how it came to be. This, though, just didn't do it for me. It felt flat. She was too engrossed in the culture of Japan, which to me, the Japanese culture is utterly amazing and it's great to learn about. But to me, she separated the two so much that she made it seem like anime was like its own world, which in some ways it is. But you don't need to treat something like that different to the point where the people who are fans of it make it seem like you're making fun of it in a weird way, for me to put it. But that's just kind of how it felt for me. But now I want to know, how did you guys feel about this documentary, if that's what you want to call it, that's on Netflix? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Did you wish there was more? Have you watched other documentaries about anime? And if so, like, let me know what they are. Let me know if you enjoyed them. Let me know if they were better than this one. And if you haven't watched a documentary on Netflix, at this point, it's up to you if you want to watch it or not. Some people at this point want to watch it to see how bad it is, and some people want to watch it because they are thoroughly interested to see what they did with it, which was kind of where I was coming from. But comment that down below. Of course, like always, in my description box, I'll have links to all my social media, my Instagram, my Twitter, and my blog as well. So please check me out on there and follow me if you like. And I come up with new videos on this channel every Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday. But I also make blog posts on my blog pretty much every day, talking about everything from anime to political stuff. I know a lot of people don't want to hear about that, but sometimes I do talk about that. And also just any mundane things that basically come to my mind throughout the entire week. Of course, like always, give this video a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already, and click the bell icon to turn on post notifications so that you're notified when I come out with a new video. Whew, I can't talk today. But anyway, you guys, that is my video. I'll see you guys soon with a new one, and I hope you guys have a great day. And like I always say to you guys, stay positive and be nerdy. All right, you guys.